What's up, guys? Jonathan, as usual, here with LK. And around, not even a month ago, I would say like 3 weeks ago or so, we did like first impressions of the new Guilty Gear Strive patch, which is like a week after the patch came out or so. And we were thinking about like, what are the biggest winners and losers of the patch? So today, we're going to use the power of hindsight and see now, like a little bit under a month into the patch, how we feel and maybe our opinions have changed a little bit.
So, I mean, specifically, I would go as far as being like, who do we actually think got buffed? Who do we actually think are the same? Who do we actually think got nerfed? Like, I think at this point, even though we don't necessarily know where all the characters are as far as strength, we do have a pretty good idea now. There shouldn't be any like uncertainty of like how good is this character now, at least, or how much improved or worse are they now since we've been playing for a while.
Sure, yeah.
So first, let us build the list. So I think let's do it like straight up buffed, slight buffed, same. There's some new YouTube guidelines. Let's do same asterisks. It's slightly nerfed. Nerfed.
Okay. Sure.
All right, so Sol. This is one that's spicy.
Sol
is spicy. People feel some type of way about Sol.
So I feel like the system changes are not great for him, but at the same time, his damage is so high, it kind of also doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But really, the main things are actually the character changes. So his 6S is now lower attack level and does not launch on counter hits. So 6S is way worse now, right? Like a lot. But to compensate, they made his 5H huge, like almost as big as his 6S, except it's 4 frames faster. So I would say Sol is either same or slightly buffed, but slightly buffed is a little spicy. Because in a lot of matchups he can supplement like using like previously 6S with 5H, and 5H is actually also better on block than 6S, like 6S was before. So, and then it's even better at catching backdash as well, because the backdash like air hit is really like weird bounce. So if you're anywhere near the corner, you just die, right? So I would say like, overall, it's kind of a dub for him, and also I would say like spoilers, Nago is the most nerfed character, right? And that was like pretty much universally agreed upon to be his worst matchup. So I'd say that's also pretty nice for him.
With your explanation, I have one question, just one question for you. I guess it's technically 1.5 questions. So, there's one and pretty. Again, I read all comments on all my videos and all Beast Coast FGC videos. I think one that actually was pretty striking was, do you think that Sol's damage is high because you play a character with low defense, low guts? So that's why you feel like when they change his combo stuff, that it doesn't matter because he does a ton of damage. I think it's a low-key cap, by the way. I think it's a low-key cap, but I want to know what you think.
No, because at the start of the patch, I was playing with Sol because I was thinking of playing him. And my combos are like outdated, like for sure outdated, because the last time I played Sol seriously was the like CEO 2021 combo breaker version of the game, right? So my combos are bad. He still does a lot of damage.
Oh, I guess people might have forgotten that there's a Sol player that got 3rd place at Evo, but I can't. He has a really long
no, it's not me
name and plays like jeez. I don't know who that guy is though. So once again, the Sol whispers kind of got me a little bit. They're like, and my thing is like, I don't know if I may have had this talk with you about like how because of where I started fighting games, I don't value fast, easy, good as much as other people do. I usually value the development of the character and the long term of the character a lot more. But I think one thing about Sol is that because of the way he started, and he was like, he was so easy, and it was so good, he could just do whatever, right? Each round of nerfs and like each round of nerfs makes it so he has to do specific stuff to like beat the opponent's options, where before it was just like one thing. So 6S is like one of the best examples, right? Like 6S used to just be like your god poke, great starter, just like great everything, right? Then 6P started being then you don't get as much return for like doing it, right? And they keep changing.
So like basically 6S's like original usage is now, it had to be, originally it was split up between like nerfed 6S and his buffed 2S, right? Because his buffed 2S is what you would use to beat like low K buttons and stuff like that, to varying degrees of success, right? But because that's still like probably Sol's biggest weakness. But anyway, like now like old 6S, that function of move is essentially split up between newly buffed 5H and newly buffed 2S. So they're basically trying to decentralize a lot of his tools, and I think like, it is generally the concept, like the way people see it is that the Shoto character and like the main character is pretty easy, but I would say Sol is absolutely like difficulty wise and above average difficulty to play, like character to play. I think he's pretty hard.
Agree.
And if that's not something that you're signing up for, that's understandable. But I think that once you do really push him, he's doing okay. He's not doing great, but he's doing okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's actually been pretty tough. This one is hard. Like at the beginning, I was like, oh, like 5H's buffs. You have like, basically like a lot of the stuff you said. I feel like I would probably overall at the moment be like he's the same because
probably the same.
Because in the end, like I don't. It's actually something I'm struggling with. Like I'm like I don't know what is more important and what I should value more. It's something like I'm working on personally, but yeah, I think putting him in the same is pretty fair, right? Kyle.
For Kai, I think so the 5H buff is really nice quality of life in terms of like confirming your stuff, and like his block strings aren't as like weak to like, oh, you FD close slash 2S and then he's in a little bit of an awkward spot and stuff like that. So that's pretty nice for him. And I would say the Fuja arc change helps his combos a lot, but I am actually not too knowledgeable on how much that would completely change the character. So I'm inclined to say like probably the same, because he actually got some pretty nice buffs, but most characters did. But I would want to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm kind of in the same lane. This is kind of like a lesson of season 2 of like, oh, a bunch of characters got buffed, but like because it's Kai, we're just like, oh, Kai's crazy now, right? So yeah, of course, I think I feel the same about 5H after playing against it a lot. It's just like, oh,
it really does matter.
It just makes it easier. It just makes him feel like slightly more consistent, even though I already thought he was pretty consistent at confirming combos. If you go back, there are times where people like misjudge, like every now and then. And then, honestly, I mean, for now, in my head, Sacred Edge is a meme at the moment. I actually don't know. For now, it's a meme. So as far as I know, like I have not really changed any counterplay against him or anything.
Yeah, it's more like, oh, you really don't want to get hit by this now, right? I would say he's probably slightly the same. He just like got buffed along with the rest of the cast, but he probably got buffed like around the same amount as everyone else, so it's fine.
Exactly. May.
May, like undisputably in like the highest buff tier for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, so she already got a lot of really nice buffs last patch, but because most people did not play against May last patch like extensively, it kind of went under the radar. And now that May is this buffed, people are having to deal with the last wave of patches as well, which is fun. But let's just talk about this one. So they buffed her jump arc, which I don't know why. Her jump arc is generally already pretty hard to like anti-air and especially air throw, because she jumps very high and then her fall speed is actually like very fast, which is interesting. But on top of that, S Dolphin is now -3 on block. H Dolphin is now +7 on block. And the S one is a lot more important. So basically her RPS on Dolphin is insane now, because I would say most of the cast does not have an option that can like stop her from mashing all of her P and K buttons and doing Dolphin, like after Dolphin again. Not even to mention her backdashing after Dolphin, because last patch, a couple characters had like some pretty nice punishes for like her backdashing after Dolphin. So like, let's say Zato hits, 2S and then gets his Pierce juggle, or like Ram, maybe catches it with Far Slash and then gets Daro or something like that, right? And that's basically like completely out the window, especially because her backdash duration is so fast. It's like Milia's, it's 416 backdash. So in general, like Dolphin is a lot more oppressive in neutral, and if it counter hits, she now gets command grab into a full combo into a wall break, which is disgusting. So I would say they're basically trying to remove May's weaknesses, plus doubling down on what she's good at. So yeah, it recontextualizes like a ton of her matchups. So like, for example, she was like very weak to Leo and like decently weak to Nago as well last version. And the RPS versus Leo is like so much better because he can't just like dash 2KU to death after Dolphin anymore, right? And Nago, along with Nago nerfs, basically what Nago players used to do is they would, after blocking Dolphin, they would like whiff 5k and then hit 2S or something like that, and then Mage couldn't like contest it, and that's kind of out the window as well. So this is probably true for like every matchup. Like if you haven't tested it yet, you need to see what your character does against Dolphin this version.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really say it better. I think the fear too basically comes from like, and we've talked about this before, that like May last patch was kind of misunderstood, but then that's why she kind of like went under the
Mhm.
radar, in that
Yeah.
she's a character that, of course, if she gets her big hit, like you just die, right? But since she's kind of like a counter poker, kind of like looking for hits randomly neutral type of thing, but she like can't get to you that quickly unless she does dolphin. Most people don't
Mhm.
feel the impact of getting hit by her unless they get counter hit straight up. So
Yeah.
what ends up happening is that because she has like so much guts, that even if she's get so one, she can counter hit you and kill you. Two, she can get in
Mhm.
and maybe kill you depending on how the game goes and what you pick.
Mhm.
But three, if you beat her up and burst, then she's gonna have 50-meter, and now she has a missile that kills you. So
Yeah.
so she could lose the whole game and then
I
beat you at
May.
the end of the game after losing the whole game. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say May has arguably the best use of meter in the game.
Mhm.
Arguably. Because she has a command grab that she can PRC on whiff, and she has a full screen 7-frame move that is,
Kills you.
I don't know. Yeah, so I would
Kills
say
you.
generally her, yeah, it kills you. And also, if she RCs, like to confirm a hit, the rest of the combo is burst safe and still does a ton of damage. So May getting meter, also like the meter, like characters getting more meter, May uses meter the best. So I would say that arguably the best, arguably, allegedly.
Mhm.
And I'd say that
Mhm.
benefits her as well.
Mhm. Axl, I'm gonna say that's buffed, right?
I think it's either buffed or slightly
Yeah.
buffed.
So the only reason why I want to say buffed is that, like, as opposed to slightly buffed, is that he just makes you feel the impact of getting hit now, which
100%, yeah.
was definitely his biggest issue before. Where if you're like a newer player, you're like, oh, that's annoying, I can't get in, like whatever. But a long time Guilty Gear strategy is if a character hits you but can't make you feel the impact. And what I mean by feel the
Fair.
impact is either you just take a lot of damage immediately, or you get put in a really messed up situation. Like, what's the difference between an Axl hitting you with 2K 2D versus like Milia or Zato hitting you with 2K 2D, right? There's a
Hmm.
two very, very, very different scenarios. So the way that Axl is now, especially after like the season 2 changes were not the best, I understood the idea, but not the best executed. The way they went about it now, it just feels like he is way, 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 way more punishing, and it helps him fight. Honestly, one of the things I dislike the most about this game right now is probably dash blocking, and how
Yeah.
most of the long range characters struggle a lot against dash blocking. So
Mhm.
that's why I think he's just straight up buffed as opposed to slightly.
Yeah, so I was definitely in the like Axl is majorly
Mhm.
buffed camp until like when I was playing against him, I was kind of reevaluating what I want to do against Axl, because before in like Zato versus Axl, for example, it's I need to win in like the first 5 seconds, right? Because if I don't win, like knock him down in the first 5 seconds, he starts building a ton of risk, and if Zato gets hit like with like 50% risk against Axl, like it hurts, like it does a lot of damage. So I'm already feeling it, right? But when I'm having all this risk as Zato, another issue in that matchup that Zato has is like if he like uses Eddie and he like summons in neutral, it's just to like stop Axl from doing his stuff. It's not like Eddie
Mhm.
is doing stuff, right? So like a lot of neutral sequences where you summon Eddie is gonna end in like counter hit 2S, invite hell knockdown, no Eddie, right? So what that means is that the risk from dash blocking building you
Mhm.
more meter is a huge deal against Axl, right? And especially for characters with like sort of limited conversions trying to get in on him. So I would say that the urgency to get in on him because of this change is actually a lot less. And I really, really feel it in Zato vs. Axl because like last version, let's say I thought it was like slightly losing, and then I was like, oh, Axl does so much damage now, and now it's for sure more losing. But I honestly didn't really feel it. I felt like the matchup was around the same. For example, I mean, obviously that's just me, and I'm sure like other matchups changed in other ways, but I feel like kind of changing your strategy a little bit based on the risk and meter change might help out against Axl. So that's why I would be inclined to say maybe only slightly buffed, but I think
Yeah.
either one works.
Here, let's give Axl a little love up in the buff tier.
Yeah, I mean, getting buffs for him is
Yes.
like new. So
All right, Chip Zanuff. This
yeah.
one I'm actually not sure. I'm gonna keep it real.
So
I'm
Chip,
leaning towards slightly.
I used to think major buffed, but then you kind of put things into perspective, and I
Slightly
think it's
buffed.
slightly
All right,
buffed.
we agree. But why do you think?
Yeah. So Rekka 3 is like the change, right? In that, so if Rekka 2 now like hits you crouching, or Rekka 1, they're both level 3. If any level 3 move like hits you crouching, it will now combo into Senshu, the overhead Rekka 3, for a pretty good knockdown, I would say. And Chip previously kind of in a lot of matchups struggled at like, okay, these characters are just whiffing their 2K over and over again, and I can't really stop them with any meaningful reward, right? I just need to like guess my own K buttons and they're out rewarding me. So now Chip has something to deal with that. But at the same time, you look at like who does Chip still lose to, all that stuff, and it is pretty much the same, but there are some notable exceptions. So like Ram is like significantly easier. Ram and Zato, from what I've been told, are like the two matchups that are like the most improved for Chip, right? And I'm assuming that there are obviously others, right? That we don't like. I'm sure like maybe Jacko is easier as well. Let's say, right? So it does help him in a good amount of his matchups, but it doesn't like completely redefine the character like I would say May buffs do.
Right.
So
That's kind of like my feel where May, like you literally have to change your strategy against May for most characters.
Completely, yeah.
The majority of the cast. Where the Chip buffs, while they're good, they're certainly obviously very good. But it seems to target the thing he had the most problem. They're not like, oh, Chip's not a good character, or oh, Chip is missing this thing. They're like, oh, Chip struggles with like one specific thing, and like that was like the main thing they were trying to focus on. So I mean, anytime, by the way, that Chip gets buffs, I'm always like warning, because I played Rev 2.0, and Chip being an actual S tier is not. This is not the video. But we're safe.
You played Strive 1.0.
Strive 1.0, true.
Like Strive 1.0.
Strive 1.0 is true. Chip did win 2 Evos. We will not forget that. I will never ever let the down players forget that.
So,
Potemkin. I'm leaning towards slightly buffed.
So, having played against him, I actually do think the 5H buff is very noticeable.
Hitbox.
Like very, very noticeable. It's real big. And the sweep buff, conversely, is not as big as I thought it would be.
Because the sweep one is the one I noticed the most actually from playing as Potemkin. And 5H, I was like, whatever.
So it might be the matchups I'm playing, because I'm playing Zato and I was trying Lake Lay over Spot as well, right? And generally, like when Pot is hitting sweep, he is hitting sweep and then canceling into Hammerfall, right? So that might be just like my perspective on those matchups, but in both of them, the 5H one actually does make a really big difference. Like in Zato's case, it's just to like try and hit him summoning from back there. Any like really big far disjointed button is obviously amazing versus him. And Leo is just, he doesn't have the best range, even though his dash is the best, right? So like anything that hits that far is also like pretty useful because it's just like generally low risk. And okay, also Pot still definitely gets dumpstered by both of those characters, but those changes do help in those matchups. So I'm inclined to say either same or slightly buffed because those changes do help, but I feel like his matchup spread will not be
like I feel like it definitely helps him be able to play, right? And you have to take system changes into account too, because he's a weird he's a weird one. He has to block a lot, but he builds risk slower than everybody else. Slower than everybody else. And then they just refuse to buff his 5P. But I mean, I'm with it, low key, but also like they refuse to do it. Like if they do it, I'm not gonna be mad, but I'm chilling that they keep not giving it to him, and they keep doing stuff like, oh, if you have a lot of risk, you build meter faster, haha. So, but I still think both those changes are good for the character, and it helps them do what they want to do. So I would say it's just a question of like how much does it matter, right? But yeah, slightly buffed. That's fine. Faust, it's sort of like a similar thing with what I was talking about with Chip, in terms of like you have to kind of reevaluate his reward off of certain options. And so examples are counter hit 2P now combos into Tornado, right? And crouching non-counter hit jump 2K also combos into Tornado from closer ranges. So like the important distinction is if Faust whiff punishes your 2S with jump 2K, he is probably not comboing into Tornado. But if he like hops your 2K with jump 2K, you're getting comboed, which is insane, because jump 2K, Faust players who have common sense will probably say that jump 2K is a good move with bad reward previously outside of counter hit, because the situation on hit is still like pretty miserable, and the cancel options are also bad. And so this, by the way, this Tornado change also makes jump 2K significantly better on block, because it is, I believe, a 4-frame gap on block
between jump 2K and tornado, so you can't like mash your jab on it anymore for most characters, unless you're Mei. So I'd say that that's pretty major, as well as the conversion change. And then also he got some love in like, because Faust's biggest weakness, other than like the whole reward thing, has been dash blocking.
Yep.
Right? And they very majorly affected the pushback on block for his 5H and his 2D. And like having played against it, it's like it looks like a edit, like in like one of those meme videos, right? It's just like you're like here and you block 5H and you're like here. And you're like, oh my god, how did I get here, right? And it's also pretty major for 2D because 2D is like pretty active, but also like 2K 2D, if you don't get hit by it, you like get pushed really far and Faust can like go back to neutral. So characters like Leo and Chip and stuff who are just non-stop always dash blocking at Faust, like they still are, right? But it's less effective, and I think that really helps him. And the damage changes also, like, so what Beneath Apology Man has told me is that the most like noticeable one is probably Chaos 2K, because previously Faust's answer to Chaos 2K was like no, right? And now it's that if you jump 2K it, right, when you think he's going to 2K, you will, get a punish. And funny enough, because the travel time on jump 2K is longer, because Chaos 2K is low profiling it, you're actually able to hit confirm it into tornado. Like, you don't need to just preempt with it. So I think that is actually like a pretty sizable change. The matchup probably is still garbage, but like little things like that can definitely go a long way, especially for a character that struggles so much with like number 1 reward and number 2 dash blocking. So they kind of are targeting his biggest weaknesses.
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, I didn't know you would go that far, but when you put it like that, yeah, I could definitely see that. The dash blocking thing was it's just like a huge thing. And again, some people may not know, but I did grind Faust for like 2-3 months. I learned Faust, and the number one pain by far, unquestionably. See, this is the way you guys got to put this shit. By the way, like they say all this other stuff, which like there's always counter arguments or like counterplay, like dash blocking. Like just getting like dash walking, and you're trying to like play footsies, but they're like next to you. You're minus all the time, so you're forced to pick like XYZ, and all of a sudden you're in the corner. You're just like, how did I get here? Just for playing the game that I'm like supposed to play. So all those changes I feel like are pretty helpful. The other thing I kind of like about these changes is that they keep not buffing items. I want them to just stop buffing items. I'm an item,
bro. The Mini Faust buff.
Mini Faust is.
Oh, wait. Also, before I forget, speaking of Leo, I'm pretty sure. So now, before it was 2 jabs into 6p, combos into tornado, unless it's a heavy. Then you need 1 jab. But now they buffed to 6p. So and they buffed tornado. So now you can do 2 jabs on all characters.
There you go. Milia.
This is. I mean, you got
Nothing.
Nothing. I'll let you go off.
I think she's slightly buffed.
I have not played against her this patch.
I think she's slightly buffed at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So what's better and what's not? So let's go with like what's obviously better. So sweep is like probably the most obvious one that everyone was talking about. That was sorely needed because she doesn't really have a safe cancel option out of it unless she has like 50 meter before, because it was minus 11. So that means like you could DP it 100%, you could super it 100%, but you force her to cancel. That one was really tough. So that's a great buff, I would say.
And in the same vein, like S-Disc also got
S-Disc and H-Disc both got raised to attack level 3. So H-Disc, I'm gonna leave that out of the discussion for now. Right now, the blatant, most obvious thing that it does. So I know someone's gonna get mad that I don't see the other thing, but I just don't think it's like a good thing, a good like tactic. But the main obvious thing that it does is like if you go like, let's say you do 2K2D H-Disc and then go like same side low and they block it. Now you have more time to confirm that they blocked it, because even though Milia is literally like plus 21 or something, it's not a lot of time to confirm the guard. Actually, it's not a lot.
Yeah, you still gotta input your
so
stuff.
People tend to mash on that to see like, are you awake? And before, like if you're either a long-term player or like it's just happened to you a lot, then you got it. But if you're starting her and you run into that, you're like, bro, I thought this was supposed to be plus. I'm losing all the time. So you have that consistently. But S-Disc was crazy. S-Disc is so good.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
So good. So it's a combination of, because it has a higher attack level, it makes Far Slash better. because if your opponent is like back to the wall, one thing I always like to say about Milia is you can tell how good someone is at Guilty Gear by asking them about how good is Milia's Far Slash, and they juiced her Far Slash in season 2, right? So with the medium counter hit, you could do a really far away Far Slash where 5H won't reach, on counter hit S-Disc and like Link and do like a full combo. She could not do that before. You as a poke, you have way more time to get over there. Like it's much easier to get over there than before. There are certain strings where like let's say you're just far away for some reason, you hit like tip of 5H, S-Disc, you have all that block stun, you're just really far away from them, already recovering, and it enables her to disengage from safely from a range she's not usually able to, because usually Lust Shaker would let you do it, but Lust Shaker's not that big, and the bigger you make it, the more disadvantage it is. So S-Disc really fills in that gap. That's one of the buffs I feel the absolute most. Then there's system changes you got to talk about. She builds risk really fast, so the risk change really benefits her. It's a little spooky sometimes because you are gonna die if you get hit, but for a character that's like desperate for meter, you do what you gotta do. The turbo fall change is good. I don't think it's as crazy as everyone was making it out to be. This is why I'm saying like I always like wait and I want to play, because people are like, bro, like Leo has white in the corner, you know that turbo fall in the corner is good. I'm like, the thing is turbo fall is not white, it's a different move, so I don't know how good it's gonna be.
Turbo is not plus
it's
2
also
by
kind of
default.
jank. The turbo thing is kind of jank, but there's some nice obvious things that you could do with it. Like for example, one thing is that if you get someone wall slumped, then you can turbo fall and get behind them and then keep them mid-screen if you want. So that gives you some control, because she's not good at wall slumping, but there's a lot of mix-up characters. There's some characters that are not mix-up characters that are good at wall slumping, right? Like HC, who's not a mix-up character, is like god at wall slumping, right? But Milia is like not that good at it. So this helps her just have a little bit more control. It also subtly makes things like, here's a common situation. Let's say you play like Baiken or something, or Milia. You hit somebody with the sick instant overhead RC, and then the wall breaks immediately because you did a bunch of damage already. So you spent 50 meter to do like 50 damage, and now the wall's broken, you're back to neutral, right? For Baiken, to be real, you probably died at this point. If you got hit by Yozan there, you probably are either just straight up dead, or the next hit's gonna kill you. But Milia, that might not necessarily be the case. But because of Turbo Fall, you can just take the corner and put it back mid-screen. So it just gives you, at the moment, it just gives you more control over what you want to do. So I think that she has more control and she is able to safely disengage like Chip more often now. So I think that's pretty helpful. I still overall think she has some of the same problems that I don't really know if they could fix these. Like for example, I think her throw mix is still pretty weak. And compared to like
for her archetype,
I mean, like
sure.
it used to be like in Exert, if you throw them, you win.
The best.
You win. In XX, if you throw them, you can win. In this game, I don't think, like when I throw you a Baiken, I'm like, I win. Like I win. GG's, right? Shake my hand. You bet or you lose. Where Milia, I don't have that. And there's characters like Jacko, she throws you 50. There's so many characters who can throw you in 50-50 you. Zato, Leo, right? And Milia, like not really. That's still pain, which leans into like her other hard knockdown. It's not sweep. Hair car, still not the best knockdown of all time, even though she's supposed to be a mix-up character. But I think she's on the right path. The final thing that I think actually still helps and makes me feel good and more confident when I play her, because when I was playing her last patch, I just couldn't believe 6K. 6K's juiced. Officially juiced. Nice. Low crushes +2, and I am not scared anymore. And I can see what the opponent is doing because it's a nice slow move. It's just what I needed. But at the moment, you know, she can always get better with as people research the character. Call me a down player if you want. That's kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I feel like from here she can only go up, right? It's not like she's gonna go down to same, or she's gonna go up to buff.
Exactly,
same, right?
That's how I feel too.
Yep.
All right, Zato, that's all you.
So, Zato, yeah, this is on me. So, I think with Zato, it's like, first of all, disclaimer, jump D is a bug.
Still?
They have basically addressed that it is a bug, right? So it doesn't count. That's not a bug. That's a bug fix. Nobody will ever be able to convince me it's a bug. So, going into his other changes, the break the law thing is nice sometimes. I'm actually trying to use it a ton with incredibly varying degrees of success. So I think it's like really, really minor, honestly. the 6K change is a meme,
Wow.
honestly.
His doesn't low crush, right?
Yeah, it does, but at the range that you use it, like at the range where you need to use 6K, if you were to like, or sorry, at the range where you would use it as a low crush, right, where the hurt box is actually like absent, it does not matter because then you're doing 6K and into what?
You can't do 2K 2D?
Because he
Oh,
2D
there
whiff.
you go.
Yeah. So I say that's probably the big difference for Milia, and the other thing is that he has no special cancels that combo from 6K.
Oh, he can't special cancel it,
Right.
or there's no special cancel?
No, he can special cancel it, but it
I
is level
see.
2, so it doesn't come on anything. Yeah. So until further notice, 6K is still a meme. And the Sun Void change is pretty nice, I would say. The main thing is it lets you be more lazy. That's the real answer, right? Because now you can do like, you know, close slash 5H, and if you're at the right spacing and they didn't FD or they didn't IBU or whatever, like if they didn't do like 1 of 5 things, and I don't always do 1 of 5 things and I play Zato, right? I'm not trying to make it sound like that. Then you do get 5H Sun Void into Eddy Drills, right? But at the same time, it's a little hard to feel like, oh, why wouldn't I just do like Invite Hell, PRC, and then, you know, do an Eddy move right away if it stalls long enough there, or like do button into like my 5H Eddy block string anyway, right? Because that puts you in significantly less meter penalty than Sun Void, because there's a couple supers in this game, so like examples are Sun Void, Chaos Focus Super, Testaments like Bird Super, whatever it's called, right? All those, like the set play supers, TLDR, right? Where they put you in super extended meter penalty. I believe it's 8 seconds, but I could be wrong. And you really feel it as Zato for a character who really wants to, you know, break with super. So that buff is nice, but I still don't think it's that major, honestly. The real difference that it makes is that it lets you be slightly more YRC safe when you do Sun Void, but also if you did Eddy Drills and then did backdash into Sun Void to dodge their YRC, it's the same thing. So it, in my head so far, it's just like it helps you be a little lazy, I guess. But in terms of like what's going against him, the scaling changes other than Ram hurt him the most, and I can't be convinced of that either, like against that. Because Ram Rekka's scaling got changed, right? And that's huge. But other than Ram Rekka's, like, bro, my opposed punishes are like, they do significantly like 40, 50 less. And my close slash starter is pretty awful. Like the routes are much worse off of it, and they're also a lot more inconsistent. And they're also way less burst safe, because whenever I punish like with counter hit 2H, I can do 2H, break the law, check for burst, 2H, right? And that's like just very, very nice. On top of that, counter hit 5H is also something you hit a lot in a lot of matchups where characters like to hit lows. So let's say like Leo and Giovanna and stuff like that. So and then speaking of Leo, my damage on like flash kick punishes because of this is significantly lower because my close slash starter is just pain. So like my close slash with the H buttons getting their scaling nerfed is still doing comparable damage to the H buttons with their scaling nerfed, right? Like that's how much worse the routes are. So I would say that change hurts him a lot. The meter, so the risk change is nice for him because he builds more risk because he's Zato, right? But at the same time, the getting meter for a blocking change, I notice a lot when I play him because you're blocking so many attacks, right? And then the other thing is, if you look at like, if I'm looking at my matchup thread and I'm like, all right, which matchups got easier and which ones got harder? Like, if we just look at this list for now, Mei is for sure harder. Axl, I would say, is the same. Faust is harder. Chip is harder. Pot is harder, but it's fine. It's Pot. Milia, I'm not sure. Sol is definitely harder with 5H. Kai is definitely harder, right? And if we keep going, Ram is easier. Leo is harder. Nago is easier. Geo is harder. Anji's harder. Ino's harder, etc., right? So I would say there's probably like 5 or 6 matchups that he has that did not get harder this version. So I'm going to say either same or slightly nerfed. Because even though he did get some nice changes, and Jumpty is a bug, the overall game around him has escalated further than he has, I would say.
Here you go, comment section. Here you go.
Yeah,
Here you go.
Yeah, we'll do that to make the comments bad.
All right,
Yeah,
Ram.
sure.
So this is actually the matchup I played the least, surprisingly, this patch is Ram. So I actually don't have too many words about her.
I've played it on 2 characters now, and I think she is between slightly nerfed and nerfed. So I'm willing to say nerfed, just so that Ram players don't get mad that I'm putting her in the same tier as Zato, extending Olive Branch, right?
I'm not. I'm
No,
not.
no,
I'm
she can
not.
go
I'm
nerfed.
not
It's fine.
setting an olive branch. What do you mean?
So no. Here's why she can go nerfed, right? Because Zato versus Ram is almost identical, I would say. And I was like, oh, these changes are gonna be so sick for Zato versus Ram, right? And I would say they pretty rarely come up, both from like I played it when I was like out of town. I played Zondo, right? And then I watched Latif play Zondo a ton, right? And Zondo is like the most practiced in that matchup, right? And I would say that the changes came up like maybe once every like 3 or 4 games max, where it's like, oh, this combo would have killed, and now it didn't. But then Ram super wall breaks Zato and he dies anyway, because it's just an infinite block string. So I would say that one is a pretty bad example. But then when I played Leo versus Ram, this is actually probably the most changed matchup, because Ram used to be able to do like any hit, Rika 1 2 3, safe jump Leo, push him to the corner, and now she is forced to do Daro. And Daro for Ram versus Leo is pretty miserable because it's +5, right? So 2k beats throw, nothing else beats throw, close slash loses to throw, and she also cannot escape Leo's throw. So she is basically forced to guess on throw versus flash kick, unless she wants to like up back and stuff like that, right? And just give up her turn completely. So the Rekka 3 hard knockdown change is super noticeable there, and so is the damage, honestly. Like Ram players are still punishing my flash kicks with 2H, which I think is just not optimal. Like they should do it with close slash, but they still are losing like, counter hit 5H and stuff. So like I'm sure that there's probably more matchups that look like Ram versus Leo. Not as much, obviously, but more so the Ram versus Zato. So I'd say I'm willing to put her in nerf.
All right, you guys get off easy this time, Ram players. For
now,
now, we'll see. We'll
I
see
still
you in
hate you.
April or March.
I
All
will
right,
see.
Leo
Yeah,
Whitefang. We don't even need to talk about him.
All right.
Boom.
Buffed. Slightly.
Boom. Honestly.
Yeah, buffed.
Boom.
Buffed. Less
Boom.
than me.
I'm doing this to be violent because I don't like him.
Okay,
Yes.
sure, fine. Yeah. Are we actually gonna talk about him?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been playing him like the last 2 weeks or so, and so straight up, the biggest buff Leo got is that Nago takes more damage in 2 blood, because that matchup was like, that was the only time I've seen a Leo player actually have to like
work.
even like struggle, not just work,
Yeah,
just like
I remember.
struggle. Like that
Alright,
matchup
so
was
like
rough. Like it was
MFCR versus Hotashi grand finals, and we're like, dude, he actually mixed Hotashi like 7 times. Hotashi masked every single time, and then Hotashi had 50 meter super.
didn't matter.
Reiko super.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was paid.
Yeah,
was
that
paid.
matchup was
Yeah.
struggle bus. Yeah, like that was a Zato matchup in terms of like how bad it was, and like the Leo players, like they felt my pain for a patch, and I was like, oh, like I don't like listen, I hate Leo, but like I wouldn't wish that on anyone, like that sucks, bro. So that change is obviously big, but like memes aside, the risk meter change, you would expect it to be not that great for Leo because he's always mash shotgun, he's flash kicking and 2Ding, blah, 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 right? But because he dash blocks at you so much, like we were talking about with Axl, he actually builds a ton of meter from that stuff, and Leo uses meter very well on top of that. But not even the system changes. Let's talk about the character changes. So the 6k having less pushback is a nice quality of life change, so that 6k confirms into flash kick more consistently, right? Because that was an accidental nerf when they slowed down flash kick, because then the pushback on 6k will push you back a little bit more and then flash kick whiffs, right? So they kind of undid that nerf in a way, but the real big stuff is number 1, 2D, and then number 2, Erst. So let's start with the smaller one. 2D, I mean, in my opinion, it's smaller. Leo players will probably say it's bigger. So 2D was a little problematic in terms of the Oki it gave, because they increased its recovery to make it more punishable, right? But now 2D is actually, like, 2K 2D is actually giving Oki on like mediums and stuff like that, where it used to not. So that's just good quality of life, right? For like whiff punishes and stuff. But the big one is Erst, because as someone who is used to doing my block string, ending with a spaced out button, doing my -7 move and putting on the clown nose, this Erst buff is insane. Like, I'm just doing like 2S5H, far slash 5H, blah, 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 spaced out Erst, and then I'm doing backdash, dash block, 6P, like all the stupid stuff, right? And it is very, very hard to discourage Leo from doing all of that. So basically, you discourage FDing, essentially, because if they FD your 2S5H, 2S5, like all that stuff, right? Then it ends with this spaced Erst, and you're like in like the box in the corner again, right? So it feels like you kind of accomplished nothing. So I can't stress enough like how messed up it makes pressure compared to before. like his front turn and pressure, and I already thought that it was very strong with the close slash +1, 2s -2, right? So those changes are also like really great for him. And yeah, I don't know, like I don't know why. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
I hate Leo.
Same. I'm with you, pal. He put me in the dumpster right after the patch came out. Like I spent a whole like 3 days only being like, if Leo is gonna be like this, I have to do Oki. I can't just push him out and stuff. Like because what happens is it's like you said, he gets access to meter incredibly quickly. He's really good at using meter. It's very easy to cash out with him if you want. He does a lot of damage. And his neutral is so strong that he doesn't care about breaking the wall. Like he's just like, well, I'm just gonna dash at you again anyway with my meter. So that if I catch you, like GG's. So it's just the word I would say is just very consistent. Like everything's very consistent now.
Very good tournament.
Great, amazing tournament character. Like I'll be polite today. Like he's just very consistent and he's always in a good spot. And the system mechanics benefit him a bunch, and it pairs up really well with his character changes. And it's immediately like if you played against Leo and you haven't felt it, that's the Leo player skill issue. Real talk. Like I literally was depressed after I played against him alongside. I was like, what happened? Why is he still good?
I mean, why did they let him cook, bro?
Let him cook. It's fine. But it's not fine. Nago.
So
nerf.
Nago is, I think 99% of people will agree he is the most nerfed character this patch.
For sure.
And so let's get into it. Number one, risk changes, bad. He builds less risk, right? Because he's big. Not actually as little. So he's in like the second lowest risk build tier. The lowest is Pot, Goldlewis, and Jacko for some reason. But still, it's not great for him in that he doesn't build as much risk, but also he is the #1 risk cranker, right? No one builds risk like Nago does. So that also makes like fighting out of the corner when you do hit him a little easier. But let's talk about the real big stuff. So #1, 2S is -11 now, which is huge. So #1, his 2S was like one of the hardest moves to whiff punish in the game that you still should try to whiff punish. So in tournament, it's like, oh, he whiffed a 2S. Do I even try it or not, right? When you like, you know, he deserves to get whiff punished for whiffing it, right? And now he does. So that's fun times, right? So like that helps a lot of characters. Like off the top of my head, like, you know, Leo, Sol, you know, the characters that really do want to whiff punish you and get in like that. So that's #1. But #2 is that he takes more damage when he is at higher blood levels, and takes a lot more damage. Like so much more damage. It's crazy. I don't remember what the exact numbers are.
I'm gonna my ballpark was like level 1 is like 1.1 something, level 2 is like 1.2 something, and then Blood Rage is like there's a special rule, but then that's also 1.2 something.
I'm pretty sure it's like 1.3 or something in Blood Rage. Yeah, but he has guts. He has very high guts. So that's you know, that's the other thing with that. But let me see. I can't. Did it not have it on Dustloop? Really? Why? Oh, here we go. He takes 11% more damage when in Blood Gauge level 2, and 25 when in Blood Rage level 3. And I'm assuming that's like what we call level 1 and level 2. And I'm pretty sure that's 25%.
It's
like it's so noticeable.
So like the first time I played against Nago was again. Hotashi take it straight as this video, but it was Hotashi. We played Milia Nago, and I was just laughing. Because before he just dies in 3 mix-ups. If he cranks his own blood gauge and then I 2K2D him, he dies in 3 mix-ups. That is sick. He has to be responsible. He has to accept responsibility for what he does. Yeah,
there you go. You're right. They're not gonna be responsible, but they have to accept responsibility.
The big thing about Nago. Like Nago was the perfect soldier last patch, right? Like he does mad damage, very explosive, can win from round start, can't whip punish him. His disadvantage it doesn't feel like a disadvantage, and that he has a god backdash, big grab, so and then all that HP and all that guts, right? So I listed 9
and God super.
So we have 10 things that are amazing about him. So like you just had to fight your way through so much just to punish people who some of these people are literally just mashing. Like they're just mashing because they don't care. Because if they hit you, they're gonna get a combo. It's again, we go back to one of the classic rules of Guilty Gear. If you get a combo and your opponent doesn't, who gives a fuck, right? That was Nago. But now he has to feel it. Between that and then 2S being whiff punishable and it being -11, he has the Milia problem, the old Milia problem, where you could DP it, you could maybe there's probably counterplay. There's probably counterplay.
No,
right?
there is. Yeah. He can figure
counterplay, but he has to pick that shit. He has to pick it. That's what we like.
Which they would not before. Also, really notable is so when he's in 2 blood, right? He's just like swinging, and then all of his buttons give him blood back, right? And so the common 2S 5H, 2S 5H, right? And that was a 3-frame gap. And then 2S was -5, right? And 2S was 10 frames in level 2. So 2S is a 15-frame gap. 2S 5H is a 3-frame gap. And to stop him from doing 2S, you would typically have to dash over and hit your 2S. And I would say it is not practical to block the 5H and then fuzzy like dash over and hit your own 2S. It is possible, but humans are not good enough to do it generally in that version. And this time it definitely is. Like all the time. Like I'm doing 2S, dash block the 5H, block the 5H, hit 2S all the time, and it's so good. So he gets away with a lot less like shenanigans now.
He's kind of like one of those, and we probably should have said it for like Ram too, for example, of like if you're like legitimately good with the character, you're gonna feel the impact, but you're basically fine. But if you were a memer, if you're a memer, got some bad news for you. If you were at me on Twitter, bro, why aren't you playing Nago? This character is dummy. That's bad news for you, fella. That's all I gotta say. I mean, it's good news for me, but it's bad news for you. Giovanna. So
I think it's either slightly buffed or buffed.
Straight up buffed.
And yeah, and I'm not entirely sure, so I'm gonna say slightly buffed for now. But if you say buffed, I do not disagree.
At the moment, I kind of feel like she's slightly buffed because like it's hard to judge for a character like this because so like last patch she had kind of funky conversions. Like the combo breaker patch, she was extremely consistent. Like especially for someone like me who like consolidates all their roots and stuff. Maybe I'm not like the flashiest Geo player, but I'm like, oh, these never drop. I always do mad damage. If I shimmy you, 5H super goodbye. Like, you know, we have all the rules. So it's like her combos are not only more consistent, but she has more return in way more situations. Like a really good example is like if she pulls up on you with like 5k counter hit. So you get 5k counter hit close slash 2H, and then haha, tra-la-la. There's a lot of like haha tra-la-la she can do, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
both in the corner and mid screen.
Yeah,
off of way more stuff.
Like before, I had a rule.
No,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. You're good. Yeah. So before I had this rule of you never leave the ground against Geo, and it's because number one, her anti-airs are very good, and number two, if she does hit you, it's gonna hurt, and that is doubly true this patch. If you ever get air hit by anything from Geo, you're dead. Yeah, like the round is over. So and then on top of that, it's actually, I didn't notice this until I like watched other characters versus Geo, but because she is building more meter for blocking, right? When she has high risk, she is going to have built the meter to have higher defense. So it's not that like crazy, but it's a little bit minor, and it does kind of help her a little bit. But also like she can build a lot of risk because she has like close slash level 4 and stuff like that, right? But she doesn't have to build a lot of risk. She can instead put you in the box where like dash throw is still unreactable without teching, and then you also have to deal with all of her other shenanigans, and then she's faster than you, so she can get in and abuse her frame data and all that stuff. So she's very flexible in how she structures her offense. So even though she should be a character that gets hurt like a lot by the risk changes, she kind of isn't because of her dash.
Yeah. And I would go as far as saying like more advanced structured geo pressure, you're mostly using like kicks kind of from a distance and like mixing things from a distance than like, oh, I'm in your face, close slash, walk up, close slash, walk up, like that style of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, she's very flexible though. She can do both.
The only thing I would say that feels weaker, and I have not checked like what people are doing, is her throw, because she did have like really good mix off throw mid screen to the point where like I was doing like throw out the corner type stuff, depending on like what was going on. Where now it feels like she can't do it, but I will say I did not lab it, nor have I checked what other people are doing. Yes.
Good talk. Oh, also, I forgot. Another pretty big one for certain matchups is her flip kick, because it is like very disjoint now. Like if you look at like the hitbox, her legs are all red. There's no hitbox there. So I would say it is hard to impractical to anti-air her with not 6p or air throw, which is big, and it is also -5. And I mean, it used to be plus, right? But now it's -5. And it is for most characters, either you don't get a punish or your jab is big, so your punish is bad. So like, you know, Zato Faust are not getting combos, right? Because Faust is too far for 6p. And then like characters who do get combos like Ram, HC, right? Their jabs are too stubby. So it is generally not a big deal if you block it, and is also disjoint. So like you can use it to get over tools like, you know, Rams like Far Slash or 5H, or like for me it's like I like it was used to get over by Eddie drills and neutral one time and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how good it is yet, but it seems pretty interesting.
Cool. Anji, I'm leaning towards slightly buffed. I think slightly. I think you're trolling if you say he's the same, because he had a few problems last patch, but I don't feel like it's so overwhelmingly crazy, like or like affecting the game type changes, or like hyper fixing his problems, because I won't. Yeah, he's noticeably better. He can convert more consistently than he could before, and he can make you feel the impact of getting hit by stuff that you did not feel before. So that's probably like the summary of Anji this patch. So one is just like he can. I mean, again, I don't like Anji, but like I'll reach across the aisle, hitting somebody with some shit, and then they don't care about it. Sucks. And like you would classic versus Anji is like get hit by Nagia, hold up, mash XP, backdash. Like who cares? Now he can pull up.
But it matters
pull
now.
up and do his thing, which he really needed. That was the S-disc problem, right? Or like the Capel problem, where like, oh, I hit you, but you don't care, right? And then there's the conversion thing, where like with 5H, it basically comes from 5H, where he has better like mid screen to corner carry, and he could do a lot more damage for hitting certain things.
Yeah. The way I feel about it is like you have to FD him now so that he's out of range of doing 2S 5H.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes him more threatening, and that he like does more damage, converts more, but it also makes him lean more. I mean, not even lean more, it just keeps leaning into like, oh, you gotta commit. You play Anji, you gotta commit.
Yeah, because he's spooky.
No, the Anji player. Like I always like, oh, like the thing about Anji.
Oh, you are encouraged to commit because the damage is high.
Because I was always like, oh, one of Anji's biggest issues is that the game's like commit hard. And that is tough, especially because his return is not always good.
They're making it out of weakness.
And now they're just like, just commit hard. You get damage, bro. It's fine. Just commit hard. Don't worry about it. So they're just leaning into that playstyle. And it's fine. Like they did actually need to make you feel the impact of getting hit by him. So it helps him out.
Cool. Alright, cool. Ino, I would also say slightly buffed. And the main thing is her like dash block change, right? And that if she hovers, she can now block earlier, and then her mobility is also better. And then on top of that, her dives are also a lot safer. And in general, this helps with the matchups where she is getting like hard zoned. So like examples are like, you know, Zato, she's getting zoned, right? Chaos, she's probably still, you know. But you know, maybe like Zato and Axl and you know Faust matchups. And just characters that are putting a lot of stuff on it. Yeah, Kai, like if they put a lot of stuff on the screen, it kind of feels like you're navigating a minefield with Ino, because it used to be like if she dashed, she could not block for a very long time. So every like little tiny hover you do is a pretty big commitment. And so they're fixing that, which is big. And then her dives are just scrubby. I hate her dives because they're now no longer -7, and now she I believe -4. So now she's gonna do her dive on you, and then oh no, you didn't beat her. And now she's gonna backdash, and now she's gonna do her things again, which is,
yeah,
I hate her. But whatever. Like the hover thing is nice. I think it's a good change, and they're both pretty like decent buffs, I think, without like really like heavily changing the point of the character by removing big weaknesses. So
very good changes, I think too. I'm also on the Ino hate train, by the way, because I've been practicing against her a lot, and she's really annoying when you don't play Milia. But the fact, so she moves faster. I want to start the movement first, actually. Like the hover dash thing, I think is pretty obvious. You know, like it just exactly what you said. The movement thing, she has a thing. We don't actually talk a lot about the characters who have like different air dashes, because most characters have like the same air dash. But there's characters like Zato, Faust, Chip, Milia who have like different ones. And like I feel like each patch they buff Ino's dashes, like air dashes
Yeah,
especially,
just a little bit.
and it has a pretty big impact. Like this, I mean this
Yeah, it's
you
big.
really feel it. So if Ino wants out,
Mhm.
she's out. Like she's gone. She flies all
Yeah,
the
her
way
corner
back.
escape is a lot better.
She's gone, right? If Ino wants in, she's in, but everyone's trying to snipe it. But the angle of her actual air dash, not hover dash, is so sharp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
diagonal.
diagonal is so sharp that there's a range where she can threaten both retreating, using stroke, or jumping and confirming what you do and diving down on you. And she also has anti dive also. So everything gets put together in a way that's like everything's pretty hard to react to. You're RPSing all the time.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that she like really likes to do. Which is a pain to play with, but to play against. But it helps her out a lot because her main issue, I would say, this whole game has been like how linear she is. Compared to previous versions of Guilty Gear. Yeah. Goldlewis.
Yeah.
Easy.
So Goldlewis, I think
You think he's straight up nerfed?
I think
Good news for the world.
My hot take is that Goldlewis is the second most nerfed character. Or the
Good news for the world, though. It's a hot take that we like.
So. Yeah. So I mean, so last patch, I was the at least in NA, I was the first person on the train that Goldlewis is broken. Like, very quickly into the patch, I was like, he is exactly number 4. He is not better than number 4, but he is also not worse. I thought he was better than Leo and Baiken. The big thing, the elephant in the room is drone, right? And there's two, like, pretty major things. Number 1, it does not stay out on hit anymore.
Good for
which
the world.
is a godsend. Like,
should have just always been that way.
They realized they made a mistake, right? Because moves in fighting games, as a general rule, should not stay out if the character gets hit.
Agree.
Generally. Right? So what the drone staying out on hit did for the patch that it was in the game, it gave him a lot of stability is a nice way to say it, but like guarantee in a lot of these matchups that should be pretty bad for him. So like, like Faust or like Happy Chaos and stuff like that. Like, oh, Goldlewis is supposed to like never be able to get in on his characters, but like sometimes, he drops the drone, he just holds forward and you can't fight him, right? Like, you just need to kind of hold it, right? So it's either, oh, I back myself all the way into the corner, right? And he has me in the corner now as Goldlewis Dickinson. Or I have to fight Goldlewis with the drone out. And it's like, I need to throw him, otherwise the drone is staying on screen and punishing me. Or I have to, like, fly around it somehow, which Goldlewis's anti-airs, I'd say, are generally pretty good. So it was just really suffocating to play against. And it was honestly really toxic. Especially the fact that all, like, level 2 drone also knocked down,
Hard
right?
knockdown, yep.
Or like hard knockdown, right? And also still stayed out on hit. So he was able to do drone level 3, push you to the corner, and then drop drone level 2 immediately. And it's like, bro, like, what did I just backdash all the way to this corner for? Like, you're just doing it again, right? So I think, and then drone level 2 also not having a hard knockdown on hit is very, very important. On top of that, the risk changes, like, Goldlewis is like, oh yeah, just FD him, bro, and then you lose all of your meter FDing Goldlewis because everything is so high attack level. So that's nice, right? Because maybe you'll have more meter to FD him, and then also when he builds the risk, maybe you actually have some hope for not losing the round automatically anymore. So that's nice. He also builds risk tied for the slowest in the game, so that benefits him less and all that. But honestly, like, the drone stuff is such a game changer. It's actually not a Gonzato, funny enough, because of oppose.
For other
but,
characters,
like,
for sure.
Most characters, yeah, like, oh my god, it's such. I'm so happy that they changed it because it was just so, like, it's so toxic to play against and so toxic to watch. Like, oh my god. Yeah, very, very good change. Very, very big nerf. Like, I thought this character was so broken before, and he is like, I still hate him, but he's like more so in the right spot now.
Yes.
Yeah, at least like his archetype has the weaknesses that it is supposed to somewhat.
I mean, I don't know. You're spitting now, basically. And even though, like, you know, the drone is crazy because the counterplay is like run into it so it goes away sooner and you don't put yourself in the corner. Any time, do you know how long it's been where the counterplay to it was run into it so you don't die, so you just die less? It's actually been like years since I had to run somewhere that I don't want to because I'm going to die if I don't, right? It's just an insanity move. And then, like, last patch, there are other moves that stay out. Like, H-Disc stays out, but if she gets hit, on block, but unlike drone, like, you can't throw somebody into H-Disc. It just doesn't hit you. It doesn't slowly come at you and, like, she just, like, puts you in the corner for free. Like, You know, like the HDIS thing is just because like DPRC pretty much was just really hard to deal with. Where like drone, the idea made sense, the execution just not the way.
Oh, also, I actually forgot. It gets even worse. So last version, his offense with drone was insane. So like number one, if you have drone on you and you YRC, drone punishes your YRC, which is third. But number two, like Gobo had this insane wall slump setup where he would wall slump you with like 2-4-8 like behind his head, right? And then drone at a spacing where if he throws you, it will combo into the drone. If you mash on the throw, then it'll, the drone will punish you. And if you jump, you're air blocking the drone.
Exactly.
Which is
what are you supposed to do?
Right? So that is gone.
Good for the world, good for the game.
Yeah. So yeah, he used to have like, I think pretty much objectively the best offense in the game.
One of.
And yeah,
we've got
how many characters left? We're close
3,
to
4, 5, 6. This is why we can't make a tier list yet, by the way. Because
because we're gonna talk like this about every character.
This is not a tier list. This is actually legitimately not a tier list.
It's not a tier list. It is not a tier list. No, it's gonna be this long. This is how long tier list is. All right. Yeah. So his offense like got toned down a little bit in spots where like his offense is supposed to be good because he's on top of you and he's swinging all of his big moves, not because he's meeting you with a projectile and set playing you like Zato or Milia. So it is good that he is worse at that.
I agree 100%. All
right.
Jacko.
So
what I'm gonna say about Jacko is I'm not actually going to. Well, first I think she goes here. This is where I think she goes.
I agree.
Yeah. The only thing is because of the way she got changed, I can't describe it in like Jacko player terms. I could only describe it in how playing against her feels like and what they do, right? And again, people always seem to forget this. When I talk about Jacko, I despise her, so I go out of my way to play against her. I go out of my way to play and practice against her, right? They're always like, Jacko. You don't know what to talk about. I literally I put myself through physical pain to learn what I'm talking about, right? So, quite frankly, she doesn't really feel that different, but I feel like she has that Milia lane of something can happen pretty soon. I have seen and also experienced some like new stuff, like using the 2S pop-up thing to have the minion hit really late and you like are kept in block stun, stuff like that. Like you said, she doesn't build risk quickly, so she doesn't build meter faster that often, but if she does build risk really quickly on other people, depending on how she sets up her pressure and stuff. So she does give away meter a lot, but at the same time, like I still feel like her general footsies are really good. Her win condition is really good. It doesn't feel different. Like I don't feel like outside of a couple of niche things at the moment, I don't feel like she's doing any new strategies because of buffs. Really, and I don't feel like I have changed my strategy against her. I'm actually trying to get even better against her. So we'll see because they did change her a lot, and there's time for them to develop more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't really have much time. That's about right.
I just started the anti-Jacko grind like this week, so
Ashley needs to die.
HC.
HC. I'm gonna say same.
Unfortunately for the world.
Yeah, because, I mean, all of it can be summed up like pretty quickly. It was like, oh, he lost 2k, 6k. This is so big, right? Maybe he's not converting. So number one, even if that was the whole story, he could just do 2k gunshot and still combo, right? But to be fair to the Chaos players, as much as I hate them, that is still slightly more resource intensive. And it also means that if you whiff 2k, then you have the gunshot out and you can't block. So that is pretty major. But they decided it was a good idea to give 6S more of a launch. So what he does this patch, instead of 2k, 6k, he does 2k, 6S, steady aim, and it combos.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah. Doing the same stuff.
Right,
doing the same stuff. Yeah. Doing the same stuff. Not much to add. The only thing I would add to that is that people don't like it when I say it, but his defense is not good. His Avada is good. Like he's good at mashing out. As in, if he mashes out on you, you're dead type thing. But if you can keep him in there, like he doesn't have like reversal super, reversal DP. So he can be sitting there for a while. and he's already good at building meter because all his stuff lead is full combo, carry the corner, break the wall. So now it's accented a little bit more, and he has the best or like top 3 YRC situations in the game already.
I think it's probably the best.
So that's something I would definitely want to mention as far as like system changes.
All right, cool.
The Baconator,
Baiken.
my mama.
Yeah. So before you say it, I'm gonna guess. I think she's probably the same or slightly buffed.
I would say. I would be lying if I didn't say she was buffed. Honestly.
Is it the tatami thing or
both.
is it the Yozan thing?
Okay, it's both. So one thing that I got wrong, which I need to get to go and check on my own actually, is that someone told me that her 2H was not nerfed to 90% and that was 100, but it was changed to 90. So I did,
It is still.
I did get that wrong. My bad. I thought she just randomly just kept the hundo when everyone else got theirs nerfed, but she didn't. But the main things, there's a couple things. So one is tatami. Everyone's like, what is the point of new tatami? So let me tell you, there's 2. Let's go 2. There's 2 things about new tatami. So one, there's IAD tatami, land tatami, right? That's the first one. People are like, oh, you just get a new combo or something. That, as far as combos, I don't really think it's going to ever be a thing. The main thing is if you do air tatami to protect yourself from a projectile and you misjudge, you don't know what projectiles actually come. You can it may not be common knowledge, but the ground tatami, the stomp, just deletes projectiles straight up. But the air tatami only has 1 hit projectile interval, or clash level. My bad. So there are times where IID back tatami, land tatami, that's just wall of anti-projectile, which makes her her back even larger, linebacker, huge back, right? So there's that angle. But then there's the other angle is that she somewhat regains her old technique. So they used to call it Kire tatami. It's like the fastest possible IID tatami. I would say for like XX, like difficult to do. Exerd, difficult-ish. Like if you practice it, you will get it type thing because of the buffer. Now with no limit, this shit is free, and she is. There's some matchups where you're just like tatami, boom, and you just have 2 tatamis in front of you, and you're just full screen. You just make a wall, you're full screen, just like that. And like it's so fast. And if someone doesn't know how to deal with it, then you just have just like how Ino can kind of just fly away. You kind of just have an out, like bye, I'm full screen now, bye. If you want.
The only thing like I've seen that I can even like try to compare it to is when I watch base Vegeta players in Dragon Ball. I do ID back jump S, ID back jump S over and over again.
Exactly.
Just make a wall.
Exactly like that. Then there's
you like retreat and you can cover yourself safely,
which is like really good. Then there's Yozan. So the Yozan change, when I read it, I was like, oh, I can mix meaties now. Heavies now. My bad. The way that I do, like, she has left right. At this point, everyone's pretty familiar with her having like a left right mix up in a lot of situations where the cross up is Yozan-san and the forward side is either tatami, JH, or Yozan-san, depending on who you're talking to, right? And my method of doing it is a little bit more nerdy because I use the collision boxes to set it up. But the problem of doing that way is that it was extremely hard to combo heavies with Yozan-san in this situation. Divephone has a video of me messing it up and dying the combo on Nago and dying, and that was very common. And even though I figured out a way to fix it like 3 days before the patch ended, having this one that bounces closer to you just makes it free. Like you just don't have to think about it. But it wasn't just that. So one, her throw mix up, now she gets close / charge dust on both sides. She used to only get it on one side. So risk return wise, it was a tough choice because if she crosses you up, she's gonna do like, let's say, throw out a random number like 150-ish, and if she hits you same side, she does like 185. So if you're thinking about like, oh, am I gonna die or not, you might want to block same side sometimes. Now it's the same damage on both sides because she gets close / charge dust on both sides. But on top of that too, there are some characters who are not that good at moving around and repositioning themselves because they can't dash block. Either because they got like hover dash like Ino, or they just can't dash at all like Nago, where there are positions where they would 6p your button but would not 6p your air Yozan that goes over them, and now you get a bombo if you hit it, because before you wouldn't get a combo. Now you will get either like a 5k 6h knockdown, or you would get like a full combo if your back was to the wall. So like all these things together just make it an even more flexible move. But besides that, though, like I don't really think she super benefits from system changes. Like she's already pretty good at building meter. She's not like a dash block bot. She doesn't block that much, right? So yeah, so it just made a couple of tools like better for more stuff.
Yeah, I would say out of the slightly buffed characters, she is maybe the most like similar to her previous version.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Testament. So
we were scared of Testament.
I overestimated the Testament changes. In hindsight, so my case is a little biased, so I'm actually gonna let LK go first. How about that?
I mean, I said the same thing, right? So like, what's funny about the projectile change, because Testament has the same projectile change, as Baiken, where there's no limit on the projectile, but the difference is the tatami mats are still on the screen for Baiken, where if there's an active skull, like let's say you like charge the projectile, right? So if there's an active skull on the screen, it will go away if Testament does another one. So the main benefit is that if someone like just has like a fast IED over like your projectile, you could just quickly, if you're recovered already, you could quickly try to use the H fireball. There might be like other things that people have come up, but that was like the main one that I saw, which is still good, but it's not like the dupe that I was thinking. I was thinking of some nonsense to use if the skull was still on the screen.
Me too.
But it's not quite like that. I think it's probably that was the main one everyone was freaking out about. The 2H one, the 2H buff is actually quite good though, I would say.
It looks really funny.
Good. It vacuums you, the move's -2, it's already disjoints, pretty good move. So you just get like better conversions for using it. And I thought it was a weird one too, because it's not like people didn't press that button. Like you usually like for Geo, they changed Geo's 2H to be like the kind of same thing. It launches, puts you behind you, right? Pulls you in. But people didn't press that button. So they're like, okay, let's give her something to press that button. But people were pressing Testament 2H. So that one I was like,
whatever.
You know. But I mean it's still definitely a buff and something that's really useful for Testament. I'm leaning towards here, by the way.
Yeah, something like that. So the reason I wanted to hold off is because I'm assuming the case I have is not the same as most characters, because sort of similar to the Axl thing, like number one, I have a hard time getting on Testament as Zato, but number two is that when Testament has me in the corner, I am not leaving the corner. You know what I mean? Because my escape is pretty limited and my buttons don't contest theirs that well. So I'm sitting there and building risk for a very long time. So that change definitely benefits me a lot, but I'm assuming that for most characters, you have Testament in offense longer than Testament has you in offense. So I think that is just kind of a special case, and that maybe applies to only a couple characters.
Okay. Got it. Bridget.
Buff? Slightly buff?
This is one that I'm just gonna listen to people, and they're just like Bridget's juiced right now. I'm gonna keep it a buck, everybody. I don't know why everyone says it. I literally have not played any games against her this patch. Last patch, I did the classic LK thing of I didn't play against her for like a month, but then I did play long sets against her. I played long sets against Witch Hazel offline. So then I was like, all right, okay, I get Bridget. This is Bridget. So guess what? I didn't play against Bridget for a month again after the patch, so I have no idea. This is just I'm listening to people. I literally have no reason to put her here. I just am listening to the people saying that she's really good. I've heard as far as over 2, by the way, for Bridget.
I wanted to double check, so I just checked the patch notes. It is what I remember. The most notable things to me, maybe I don't know, is that her what's it called? Her like slide thing is better on block, right? Her like command normal, like her SH or HS or whatever, those are like, what was I gonna say? They're like they hit lower, so they like don't lose to 6p as easily. And her 2p is better, and I don't know how much that matters. So Bridget is like by far the character I'm the least knowledgeable about. Disclaimer. So what I could be saying is completely cap about like how buffed or not buffed she is, so that's why I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, same. This is one of those like I'm literally just repeating what I've heard. She's one of the characters where like it's again like I learned stuff about her last patch. I was like, all right, we do need to stop putting off the anti Bridget, because I kept running to Bridget in tournaments. And I learned stuff, and I was like, okay, she's alright. Like, you do this, that, and another thing. And then patch dropped. I was like, all right, bye, Bridget. I out of my plate, right? And then there's Sin, which I think this is it's funny. Yeah, it's slightly nerfed. He just got nerfed by the system because he has no changes and
relatively unchanged, but yeah.
Scale stuff is worse. So
yeah. It's actually funny. The only two characters in slightly nerfed. Basically, it's like, oh, they didn't get changed.
The only characters in slightly nerfed are characters that cannot see that well. It looks like because Sin has an eye patch, and Faust has a blindfold. It must be a coincidence.
Yeah, and Goldlewis only has like one lens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Nagor's got a mask on, so he can't see.
We won't talk about Baiken though. All right. So let us know what you guys think. How are you feeling about the truth about characters this patch? How they're buffed, slightly buffed, same, nerfed. Did we get anything wrong? Did you disagree? Let us know in the comment section below. Like or subscribe if you guys feel like it, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace out.